Good morning. Day 2 of the NFL draft is upon us, and maybe, just maybe, it's time for the 49ers to start picking players. As you know, last night the 49ers had a wild day of the NFL draft, and they did absolutely nothing. It was action by inaction for the 49ers. They didn't trade Deebo Samuel. They waited and saw what happened in that first round. A lot of teams didn't pick. Obviously, the NFC West didn't use any of their original picks. The Seahawks did pick Charles Cross at number 9. That was through the Russell Wilson trade that allowed Seattle to get back in the first round after they had traded for Jamal Adams to leave the first round. So it was an unusual first round for the NFC West. We did see Seattle make that pick, but we saw Arizona trade out as well. They got Hollywood Brown on their roster now from the Baltimore Ravens, gave up the number 23 pick. We saw 6 wideouts selected by NFL teams. We saw 2 wide receivers traded, but Deebo Samuel was nowhere to be seen as part of any of those transactions. In fact, one of the transactions had a lot to do with Deebo Samuel, and that's A.J. Brown from the Tennessee Titans to the Philadelphia Eagles, but it wasn't Deebo Samuel. Now, I talked about A.J. Brown yesterday on the show. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Check that out. Maybe I'll recap here in a little bit, but first I want to talk about day 2 of the NFL draft because the 49ers are moving into pick mode. So this article right here came out on The Athletic this morning. The 49ers' best remaining players available in this NFL draft. Cam Jurgens, Jalen Pitre, Christian Watson. Those are 3 names that highlight the list. Not necessarily in that order, but those are the big names right now that are still on the board for the 49ers. So I want you to go to The Athletic and subscribe to this piece. I'm going to find a link for you here in just 1 second, just so we can put it into the chat section and begin our Friday morning off on a good foot. So here we go. We'll click on this sucker and we'll get the URL right there in the chat section. Already 50 of you, early risers, maybe on the East Coast, maybe people getting ready for work here on what looks like a sunny Friday morning. I just took a peek out the window here in the Bay Area. It was a later night last night, but not all too late because obviously the 49ers did not pick yesterday. So here you go. Check out the chat section. Subscribe to The Athletic. We have 39 remaining players on our 49ers big board. It started with 45, and 6 of the players on the big board were picked yesterday. That was Ahmad Sauce Gardner by the Jets at number 4. Drake London, USC receiver by the Falcons at number 8. Treylon Burks, Arkansas wideout by the Titans at number 18 to replace A.J. Brown and the pick that they got from the Eagles for A.J. Brown. Tulsa offensive tackle Tyler Smith went to the Cowboys at number 24. Iowa center Tyler Linderbaum went to the Ravens at number 25. And Chattanooga center Cole Strange went to the Patriots at number 29. All 6 of those players were on our original 49ers big board, which was our way of architecting expectations for you, for the readers, and for the viewers for the 49ers draft. We found players who'd visited the 49ers, players who might be scheme fits for the 49ers, and found realistic expectations, essentially, and assembled a list based on all of that that was comprised of 45 players. 6 of them were taken yesterday. Now, we put some first-round talents up on the board because we had to account for the contingency plan of the 49ers potentially trading Deebo Samuel and re-entering the first round. So 5 of the 6 players taken off the board yesterday, we actually did not expect to be available for the 49ers in the second round at number 61, or if they trade up today, anywhere in the second round. We knew that 5 of those 6 players would likely go in the first round, and they were contingencies on the big board in case the 49ers traded Deebo Samuel. Obviously, the 49ers did not trade Deebo Samuel during the first round, so they didn't trade back in. They proceeded just like, 25% of NFL teams did without a first-round pick yesterday. So 5 of those 6 names, you just move on. You say, okay, 49ers didn't do this. They didn't have access to a guy like Tyler Linderbaum, who they probably would be interested in had they had that higher pick. But nope, didn't happen. They move on. The one surprise was Cole Strange, the center out of Chattanooga. Cole Strange becomes the first player drafted in the 5th round or higher from Chattanooga since Terrell Owens in 1996. The 49ers picked T.O. in the 3rd round of 1996. So Cole Strange, congratulations to him. He went to the Patriots at number 29, and fittingly, I said this story last night on the YouTube live, so be sure to subscribe to join that party. That comment section, I understand, was wild. I waited in just a little bit, and I was like, okay, we'll answer a couple, but I got to get out of here. That thing was popping off last night. But Cole Strange went at number 29 to the Patriots. That is the pick that way back when belonged to the 49ers. They traded away their 1st-round pick to move up to number 3 in 2021. That was obviously the selection that ultimately netted Trey Lance. Now, because the 49ers had a good season in 2021, made it all the way to the NFC Championship game, that pick of theirs, the former pick of theirs that went to the Dolphins in that Trey Lance trade, slid all the way down to number 29. Lost a lot of value during that playoff run for the 49ers. So it ended up at number 29. Mike McDaniel took over the Dolphins this offseason, and he was armed with a number 29 overall pick. He decided to trade it, and I mean, I guess you could say Miami's entire brass decided to trade it to Kansas City for Tyreek Hill. That was part of the package. So 29 that used to belong to the 49ers went from Miami to the Chiefs about a month ago. The Chiefs then sent it to the Patriots last night on draft night, and the Patriots used number 29 to shock the world and pick Cole Strange. Cole Strange had a 3rd-round grade on him by most teams. The Rams, I mean, Sean McVay wasn't shy about this. He said it in front of the media yesterday, maybe after a few beers, but sure, Tito's and waters. I don't know what Sean McVay drinks. Don't want to be presumptuous here. But Sean McVay said, we thought he was going to be available possibly at number 104, but he got picked at number 29. So good for Cole Strange, good for Chattanooga. Bad for teams potentially looking for a center. That center market has shrunk a little bit. I don't know if the Patriots are indicative of a run on centers. The Patriots always do their own thing in the draft. They don't care where anybody's projected to go. But the truth is, with Linderbaum and Strange off the board, we are now in a position where the centers are becoming more and more scarce. In fact, we only have 3 upper tier centers according to our big board left, but the 49ers obviously could be doing their own scouting. So the key for the 49ers today is to hammer the O-line. Today is about finding a way to better protect Trey Lance. The 49ers did not do a good enough job protecting Jimmy Garoppolo throughout the years that he was with the 49ers. The pass protection was almost always subpar. They got a little bit better at the start of 2021, but then injuries hit, right? Mike McGlinchey tore his quad. Tom Compton was a way better run blocker than he was a pass protector. Right guard's been an issue forever, and now you may have added problems at center since it seems that Alex Mack might be on his way to retirement. Obviously, the 49ers have already slid as far as overall offensive line quality goes this offseason because Laken Tomlinson signed for $13 million annually with the Jets. So the only real fixture at this point of the offensive line that you can count on is Trent Williams at left tackle. Now, I'm not one of these people that leaves a restaurant review on Yelp before I eat the main course. So I'm not going to go here and say, oh, the 49ers messed up this offseason before I see who they draft, right? So we have to see the full picture. But today is the 49ers' chance to go out there and start addressing the biggest, most glaring issue on this team. And it has been, in my opinion, the biggest, most glaring issue on this team for the past several years, and that's pass protection. You can't wait until day 3 of the draft to do this. The 49ers have used day 3 picks on offensive linemen. You think about Justin School, you think about Colton McKivitz, you think about Jalen Moore. The first 2 guys especially haven't been great for the 49ers. And you know what? You can't be surprised when a day 3 pick on the offensive line doesn't necessarily translate into an instant plus impact NFL player. You have to use premium picks on one of the most important position groups because you need premium talent to be able to seamlessly port into NFL production. Now, even with premium talent or even talent that's selected in the first couple of rounds, it's not necessarily going to be a seamless port. I think the 49ers decided to go the route of higher draft picks last year with Aaron Banks. It was the first time that Kyle Shanahan had picked a guard that high in the NFL draft. Banks went in the 2nd round. Now, Banks played, 5 snaps in 2021? So he wasn't exactly a smash hit as a rookie. The 49ers obviously did have Laken Tomlinson at the left side, but Banks couldn't beat out Daniel Brunskill on the right side, and that right guard position was an issue. So it's not just about where you pick the offensive lineman. You have to pick the right one, and you're going to have to develop the right one. And no, we're not ready to close the book on Aaron Banks yet. The 49ers seem optimistic about him. They seem bullish that he'll be able to take over for Laken Tomlinson at left guard. But the whole saga illustrates the importance of drafting well on the offensive line. And that's what the 49ers must do, I think, starting today when we see rounds 2 and 3 happening. You obviously have Cole Strange off the board, but you look at some of the other center prospects for the 49ers. One's up on the screen right there. That's Cam Jurgens out of Nebraska. Really twitchy athlete, projects as a good center in the league, has real D1 starting center experience. He may not be versatile. You may not be able to plug him into guard in the interim if the 49ers have a situation that allows for that, if Mack somehow returns or if they sign J.C. Treader. But at the very least, I think Cam Jurgens can be an apprentice under a veteran center for at least a little bit before taking over. That being said, he's talented enough to where I think he could win a job, maybe not at the very start of his first year, but within the first year with the 49ers. If the 49ers pick him, I think Cam Jurgens can potentially grab the starting center spot. He's that athletic. He really is twitchy. Go put on his tape. This guy explodes off the blocks. He'd be good in that outside zone. You also can look at Dylan Parham, who is a former tight end out of Memphis. Parham has played all over the offensive line. The 49ers hosted him. And anytime they host somebody, you know that they're interested. Now, they can pick somebody without hosting them on a pre-draft visit. Mike McGlinchey, that selection came out of nowhere when you cross-checked it with the pre-draft visits in 2018. But the fact that, just because non-visitors have been drafted doesn't make these visits any less valuable. The 49ers obviously have interest in a center. Dylan Parham out of Memphis is an offensive lineman who has the right mobile background as a former tight end to fit there. He's still on the board today as well. Then I wouldn't discount Luke Fortner out of Kentucky. And this is because the 49ers might be more interested in finding a Swiss Army knife up front that not only can potentially fill center, but can also potentially fill one of those guard spots. Because even if Aaron Banks pans out at left guard, the 49ers still need an upgrade at right guard. I think they want Daniel Brunskill to be a swing tackle. If I were running the team, Daniel Brunskill would be more of a swing tackle. I use him in that 2019 role. So I'd still be looking for a right guard if I'm the 49ers. I'd still be looking to fortify the interior if I'm the 49ers. And Luke Fortner out of Kentucky has been one of the most versatile offensive linemen in the SEC for several years running now. And that's something that I think the 49ers would like. Polished, versatile guy, has played the guard positions, cerebrally should be able to handle center down the road. So I like Fortner. Those are 3 offensive linemen. I don't know if the 49ers will pick any of those 3 guys. I don't have any intel. I don't know if the 49ers know because they don't pick until number 61. But that should just give you a template for what the 49ers might be looking for today. So that's the need for a center. Goes hand in hand with the need to hammer the offensive line. The 49ers might also try to bolster the wide receiver room today. I know a lot of you are talking about Christian Watson out of North Dakota State. Well, I have, he's on my big board. Okay. So don't start throwing eggs at me. Christian Watson's on my big board. We're going to find out a lot about what the 49ers philosophically want at the wide receiver position based on who they add on top of Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and Jawan Jennings, because so far they've got bullies in that wide receiver room, right? 49ers want bullies in that wide receiver room. At least that's what the more recent track record for this football team has been. Well, Christian Watson, he's a little physically underdeveloped. He's not going to be your muscle-bound blocking wide receiver right out of the gate at the NFL level. He needs to put on some muscle. Now, he's long. He's explosive. He's exciting. I know he dropped some passes, but yes, this is an exciting player. Yes, he went to the same school as Trey Lance, so everybody's going to be pumped up about that. But if the 49ers draft somebody like Christian Watson, it will be an interesting, I don't want to say philosophical shift, but it will be an interesting philosophical addition. And they'll make that receiving room a little bit more versatile with a tall, lanky guy who can really run. But in my opinion, and I've talked about this a lot on some of these other lives, I think the 49ers are very clearly dedicated to we're just going to smash out your mouth guard style at the receiver position. Now, with Trey Lance at quarterback, maybe they're going to want somebody, that's going to stretch the field a little bit more. We saw what Kyle Shanahan did when Trey first started against Arizona. He made Travis Benjamin active for the first time, and he started using Benjamin to run those deep routes to stretch the field. So it's all possible. I just want to wait and see what happens. The reason the draft is my favorite event is that I could speculate about different strategies and different philosophies, and everything's always evolving in the NFL. I could do that forever, and I know people do that forever in the lead up to the draft. But when the draft actually happens, we see the switch flip to actually being able to tangibly talk about football and tangibly talk about the roster construction. So what the 49ers do at receiver is going to be really, really interesting in that regard. They have to fortify the running back room. Whether they use a higher pick or a lower pick, to me, you just need bodies in there. And they're going to pick guys that they like. Last year, they were able to unearth talent in that 6th round with Elijah Mitchell. So it didn't make the Trey Sermon no-show in year 1 look all too great. But the book is still open on Trey Sermon. Maybe he's going to pair better with Trey Lance in an inside zone-oriented offense. I don't know. We're waiting to see. One thing I do know is that the 49ers see a lot of injuries in that running back room, and they need to make sure that it is, in fact, insulated. So I would expect them to draft a player there today. And if they don't, I would expect them to have some priority free agents lined up on Saturday. An edge rusher, just because. Boye Mafe is still on the board, although I think that Boye Mafe is probably going to go rather early in the 2nd round because he's got 95th percentile athleticism and he weighs 260 to 270 pounds. I mean, he's having enough to work against the run. Edge rusher out of Minnesota. The 49ers want to pair Nick Bosa with a stud. Now, the problem is I think some of these bluer chip edge rushers, if you will, they're going to go earlier in the 2nd round. Will the 49ers trade up? Maybe. But you can never have enough pass rushers. This is the San Francisco 49ers. This is the heartbeat of their team. Don't be surprised when they hammer the defensive line today. So those are some of the needs. Obviously, the secondary is also something that we can look at. Jalen Pitre, still available. Safety out of Baylor. Nick Cross, safety out of Maryland, still available. Those are probably, you have Jaquan Brisker too, obviously. Those are 3 of your top DB candidates as far as fits for the 49ers because they are now missing Jaquaski Tart. They probably now do want to bolster the secondary. Another guy that we talked about was Cordell Flott from LSU, but he's a much lower rung draft pick. He's going to go in the 5th or 6th round. Good hips for Flott, somebody who might be able to also plug into that nickelback position for the 49ers because K'Wan Williams is now gone. So they're looking for depth. They're looking for versatility. They have a good roster already. That's how the 49ers have been good in recent years, is because they've built a strong, formidable roster that is also deep. So they like where they're at. They don't feel they have any massively glaring holes, but there are definitely sketchy areas that need to be insulated. And that's why the 49ers have 9 draft picks. They're going to start with number 61 unless they trade up today. Now, let's change gears a little bit. There was a lot flying around last night with A.J. Brown, Hollywood Brown, 6 wide receivers going, trades everywhere, and the 49ers obviously not picking, and the 49ers essentially accomplishing their biggest piece of action through inactivity on Thursday night. So with so much moving around, with so much chaos in the first round of the draft, it's important that we just boil it down and summarize what happened into one clear, concise thought. And that's right under me right now. Deebo Samuel is still a 49er as we speak, and we should now have contract parameters for him to help navigate a dicey same agent situation. So I'm only going to take a few minutes on this before I go to questions, but by now you all probably know that Tory Dandy represents Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown, and DK Metcalf. All receivers entering year 4 who are eligible for new deals. Well, A.J. Brown is no longer eligible for a new deal because he just signed a new deal with the Philadelphia Eagles following a trade from the Tennessee Titans. Now, think about the parallels and the symmetry between A.J. Brown and Deebo Samuel. Same agent, yes. trained with each other coming out of the 2019 draft as SEC wide receivers. So that's another check mark. That's another, point of symmetry. Both have some injury concerns, although I would argue that A.J. Brown's are greater than Deebo Samuel's. A.J. Brown has dealt with some bad knees, and he's missed games in every season. Deebo Samuel, most of his missed games, 9 of his 11 career missed games came in 2020, and that was coming off the broken foot. For Deebo, you could still argue that this is just bad luck. Broken foot led to poor conditioning, led to bad hamstring, but he's been essentially available throughout all of 2019 and 2021. But anyway, back to the parallels with Brown. Stud wideouts, done with year 3. Both have wanted big money entering year 4, and both have the same agent. And they're both physical players, by the way. Deebo Samuel more so than A.J. Brown, and that physicality for Deebo Samuel allowed him to play the wide back role, something that A.J. Brown obviously didn't do with Tennessee. But on top of all that, both coming out of similar systems, similar run-first, play-action-oriented offensive systems. I mean, the table was set for a weird conflict of interest this offseason since Tory Dandy was representing both of these guys. And then the parallels extended to just a few days ago, and Deebo Samuel's mom had an Instagram live on, and Deebo was talking to A.J. Brown on the phone in the background of that Instagram live, and they're both complaining about their contractual situation. So dicey, to say the least. DK Metcalf has been quieter throughout all of this, but between A.J. Brown and Deebo Samuel, it was dicey territory for the 49ers. Now, we talk about symmetry. Now you move into these contract negotiations or these early talks. Deebo Samuel deleted the 49ers references from his Instagram. A.J. Brown deleted the Titans references from his Instagram. We know that Deebo Samuel publicly requested a trade. We don't know what A.J. Brown did behind the scenes. He didn't publicly request a trade, but the truth is that A.J. Brown did get traded from the Titans to the Eagles. So there you have it. The dicey situation, the precarious situation. It seems like the Titans caved, and the 49ers, at least so far, haven't caved to big-time early contract demands. Now, to bring everything full circle, on April 11th, Deebo Samuel's friend Ricardo Young posted on Instagram, "If it ain't $25 million a year, we're not going to take it. We're not talking." Deebo Samuel liked the post, endorsed the post. So $25 million APY seems to be a goal of Deebo Samuel's. Guess what A.J. Brown signed for after the trade to the Eagles? $25 million APY. So if the symmetry holds throughout all of this, which I think it will, A.J. Brown should represent a template for Deebo Samuel's contract with the 49ers. Will Samuels be a little bit more? Probably. And I believe it should be a little bit more. I think he gives you a little bit more through his wide back versatility. But at least we now have a baseline and a potential ending point, a fungible ending point, since A.J. Brown is signed, because he's got the same agent. It's all going to come down, in my opinion, to the fully guaranteed money, which we don't know yet. There's a $57 million number floating around, but that's probably coming from Tory Dandy through the reporters, Rappaport, Schefter. The initial numbers come from the agent, and that's likely total guaranteed money. Because I guarantee you, guarantee is a word I'm tossing around a lot now, $57 million would surpass even Tyreek Hill, who's currently leading the charts with $52 million in fully guaranteed money. Difference between total and fully guaranteed money is that totally guaranteed money includes injury guarantees. I want to know guaranteed at signing. Guaranteed at signing is the number that's going to be significant as far as what the 49ers can offer Samuel, and it's going to be significant as far as how quickly these two sides may be able to reconcile and meet in the middle. And if it's $57 million total guarantees for A.J. Brown, as reported yesterday, well, then we could probably surmise that the full guarantees will be somewhere around, 40 million, 40 to 45? I don't know. We have to see the full contractual details. But if it is 2 seasons of fully guaranteed money for Deebo Samuel, which would be around $40 to $45 million, I think the 49ers can afford this. I really think that they're going to be able to rationally meet Deebo Samuel, who might have had irrationally high money demands early on. All speculation, because I don't know A.J. Brown's final numbers yet, and I haven't been in on the Deebo Samuel negotiations, but we're looking to see what might have been the sticking point. Maybe some early chatter from the 49ers offended Deebo Samuel because it was too low, $19 million APY with guarantees that he didn't like. But now that A.J. Brown is at $25 million APY with guarantees that the 49ers might be able to meet with the same agent, we might be ready to play ball. So let's continue monitoring this as it progresses. So, day 2 of the NFL draft. It is now time for the 49ers to start picking, and it's time for me to start answering some of your questions. So, thanks again for tuning in on this morning. Hope you all get a good breakfast sandwich today, maybe some coffee. I'm going to wade into this comment section. I got to put on the hazmat suit. I have to be ready for this. It might be bad. It might be a little bit toxic in there, but we're going to wade in and see what's going on. So while I do that, everybody right now, stop whatever you're doing, pull over to the side of the road if you're driving, hit the subscribe button. I really appreciate it. We're growing very quickly, especially after yesterday's huge show. Hit that subscribe button right now because a lot more good stuff is coming in 49ers talk with this. All right, Kobe Bryant. Yes, he is named after Kobe Bryant. He spells his name just like that. All right, questions. Any day one starter still left? Yeah, I mean, I think you're looking at one of them right there. Cam Jurgens could be potentially a starter. Maybe not. You never know until these guys get into camp, especially once you move past the very premium picks at the top of the draft. But some of the wideouts, some of the running backs, all these guys can carve a name out for themselves. But the thing is, the 49ers don't pick until 61. So to get to the remaining premium stragglers, if you will, might have to trade up. That being said, this is a draft about volume. It's not necessarily a top-heavy draft. One of the fascinating things yesterday was that we didn't see a quarterback go until number 20, whereas in 2021, we saw a quarterback go in each of the first 3 picks. You had Lawrence, you had Wilson, and then you had Trey Lance to the 49ers. So it just goes to show you how different this draft is than in years prior. And it also validates in a lot of ways the 49ers thinking, their process. All right, we got to take a big swing. We got to trade up to be able to draft a quarterback. And they realized that doing it in 2021 was going to be a whole lot more fruitful than doing it in 2022. And you see the results now with the QB not being picked until number 20 yesterday. Package up some picks to move up to address the secondary, possibly. Maybe you like Brisker. Maybe you like Nick Cross. Maybe you like, well, people think Nick Cross will be there later. I mocked him a little bit earlier. I don't know who's right. Look, with Cole Strange going to the Patriots at number 29, you can see this is all a crapshoot. You can't really accuse anybody of picking a guy too early in a draft projection when the New England Patriots do that, right? When Bill Belichick goes out and picks somebody who had a third round grade with essentially the entire league when Belichick picks him at number 29. You know, it's wild. By the way, for Cole Strange, that was worth a lot of money for him. Is going to get a $7.1 million signing bonus. His entire contract's going to be guaranteed because he's a first-round pick. If he had been picked down in the 3rd round, like a number 73, where the Athletics' Dane Brugler had projected him to go, it'd only be about a $1.2 million signing bonus for Cole Strange. So that gives you an idea about how lucrative it is to be picked in the 1st round and not slide all the way through the 1st round, the 2nd to the 3rd. So Cole Strange probably at least $6 million richer than he otherwise would have been immediately through that signing bonus, thanks to the fact that he went in the 1st round. But yes, back to your question about the secondary. You look at Jalen Pitre out of Baylor, probably going to go earlier in the 2nd round. Do the 49ers really, really want a stud in that back end? Well, yeah. It depends on how much they're willing to pay for it, though. And this team has generally been rush over coverage, but maybe there is a player like Pitre who you think can really make this football team better, right? That could really have an outsized impact on the defense. And in that case, you package a pick or two and you move up in that 2nd round. So at this point for the 49ers, it's so hard to predict. Again, a team that has 9 picks and that they don't start till number 61, with the draft being the crapshoot that it is, with most people not able to predict number 3 last year. How are people supposed to predict number 61 this season? That's the way that I look at it. And, this is absolutely one of the 49ers possibilities listed underneath me, but by no means can we be sure of what they're going to do moving forward, which is why I love analyzing the draft after, not before it, because I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know stuff that nobody outside the room, and even the 49ers probably don't know, because they pick later and they need to be able to evolve. You want Breece Hall out of Iowa State. I don't blame you. He's a good player. I mean, physical back who can also run. Who doesn't want one of those guys? And there are two backs at the top of this draft, Breece Hall being one of them, that are excellent talents, versatile talents, can catch the ball out of the backfield. I don't know how bullish the 49ers would be to use a higher round draft pick on a running back, but it hasn't stopped them in the past. So people are like, oh, well, that must be it. And they used the third round pick on Trey Sermon. They're just going to, and then the sixth round pick came on Elijah Mitchell. They must be happy to use lower round picks. I don't think that's how the 49ers operate. If they really like a guy, they're going to take him. So we'll see. Those are my thoughts on the wide receiver, on the running back situation. I think the 49ers need to bolster both wide receiver and running back. But my main thoughts are on the offensive line. I think the 49ers must come out of this draft ready to protect Trey Lance better than they were before the draft. Otherwise, this team is taking steps backwards. I've been consistent about that, not only this offseason, but for years. I think the 49ers need to do more on the offensive line. I think they did show a greater commitment to investing in the offensive line last season when they went out and they got Alex Mack. They went out and they paid Trent Williams record money. They went out and they used the second-round draft pick on Aaron Banks. The 49ers invested a lot in the offensive line last year, and we'll see if some of those investments really start coming to fruition this season if Aaron Banks steps up. But you have to keep on investing, and you have to realize that some of these draft picks aren't going to work out. So say that Aaron Banks doesn't really pan out. It's a possibility, right? Well, then you have to keep on coming in waves. The championship teams are built in the trenches, and the 49ers have done this better than anybody along the defensive line, right? They win with numbers there, strength in numbers. They're coming in at you in waves. Bosa is the ringleader. Armstead is the ringleader, but they come at you in waves because they know how to acquire and develop talent on the defensive line. Well, they need to start matching that intensity on the offensive line. They need to acquire and develop along the offensive line, and not just in run blocking. I know that the 49ers have done great stuff in run blocking, but at the end of the day, when push comes to shove in the playoffs, if you can't pass protect against Aaron Donald, then you're not going to win the Super Bowl. You're not going to be holding that Lombardi trophy. So I will forever advocate the importance of O-line play, O-line, D-line play. It starts in the trenches, and I think the 49ers need to do better up front. In fact, I even made a capitalized text title, Hammer the O-line. 49ers have to do that starting today. That is my main advice for the San Francisco 49ers. Hell yeah. Hit the like button. Thanks, 49 Lakers. Appreciate you. Hit the like button. Maybe even more importantly, hit the subscribe button. Appreciate the help for the channel. This is an interesting question. Do you think the 49ers will trade Deebo for next year's first-round pick? The draft is actually better next year. All talent evaluators that I've talked to like the idea of the 2023 draft a lot more than 2022 draft. So there is some speculation that, maybe the 49ers would rather have a first-round pick next year, which, yes, in a vacuum can be absolutely true. I think they'd probably rather hold first-round draft capital in 2023 than 2022. That being said, the prospect of trading Deebo is a tricky one because of how valuable Deebo is to the 49ers. I've gone through this ad nauseum so many times. Deebo Samuel, when he was on the field, the 49ers were over 4 times as efficient in the snaps when he was off the field in 2021. His importance stretched beyond just the numbers, the efficiency, the EPA, whatever you want to call it. There was a spiritual component to it with him coming out super gremlin, boombox, sitting in Kyle Shanahan's offense. I mean, knocking mouth guards out. The 49ers took Deebo Samuel's lead and followed it all the way to the NFC Championship game. So he's so valuable to the 49ers that if you trade him in a year that Trey Lance is supposed to take over as a starting quarterback, you better get a lot immediately in return. Not just a lot in return, a lot immediately in return to be able to replace that. Otherwise, you're on a treadmill that is running backwards, and that treadmill's moving too fast for you. So the 49ers don't want to get worse this offseason, especially when it comes to supporting cast for Trey Lance. because you have to protect that massive investment. So with future first-round picks for Deebo Samuel, to me, in a vacuum, that sounds great and everything. But how are you getting better now? How is the team going to absorb the loss of a monumentally impactful player? And that's why the Deebo Samuel trade has always been unlikely, because to replace that kind of firepower through one player, you better get a whole lot of firepower immediately in the draft or through other players to be able to pick up that slack. And obviously the first round came and went yesterday without the 49ers making a move. And anything that involves future facing picks means the 49ers would acknowledge getting worse now, which is something I do not believe they intend on doing. And I do not believe they are comfortable of doing. So I hope that answers your questions. Mike says, I'd take Waddle and the 49ers pick back in 2023 for Deebo. And, this is interesting because Jalen Waddle would help at least somehow absorb the loss of Deebo Samuel, right? You get a speedy player. Obviously, you wouldn't get a Deebo Samuel. It wouldn't be as physical a player, nowhere near as close. It would change the way the offense looks, but at least you'd be getting something back that could contribute in 2022. And then you'd get 2023, you'd get that Trey Lance pick back. I mean, it'd be interesting from a draft pick calculus mathematical standpoint, of course. But I still think King's ransom has meant more for the 49ers. They weren't willing to take number 10 plus a pick swap from the Jets yesterday because that didn't come close to the King's ransom. I think it would have to look something more like the Tyreek Hill package. That was 5 picks. And now that the first round has came and gone, the 49ers, again, the key is they can't be taking steps back with Trey Lance at quarterback taking over this next season. And Trey himself even tweeted about it yesterday, told Tony Jefferson to stop it. So that was, King's ransom would have been 4-10, something crazy like that. But the Jets obviously didn't offer it. And hey, good for the Jets. The Jets came out of round 1 looking really good. They built around the draft. Robert Saleh was really happy. Joe Douglas, good for him as well. Sauce Gardner to the Jets. Garrett Wilson to the Jets. I mean, with 4-10, they're able to get a couple good players, and they traded back in at number 26. So they picked up 3 good-looking prospects in the first round. All of those are going to be on supremely valuable rookie deals. Great for New York. They rationally acted. Instead of overpaying the 49ers for Deebo Samuel and then having to maybe even overpay Deebo Samuel, the Jets were able to pick 3 times in that first round. And they were in position to rationally do that. Now, the 49ers, they're in a different kind of position. Nobody offered them that King's ransom for Deebo Samuel, so obviously he's still on the roster. And without that King's ransom in return, the 49ers right now are much better suited, in my opinion, and I think I think this is a commonly held opinion, are much better suited to maintain effectiveness and efficiency with Deebo Samuel on the roster just because he's so valuable to them. Now, there obviously is the question of, Deebo doesn't want to be here. He's just going to sit around and mope, and he's going to be a locker room cancer. Well, that's where it's up to Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch to display their skills as people persons. They have to smooth this over. They have to figure out a way to get Deebo back in the boat, happy, ready to go, ready to attack. Bring back that same mentality that you saw just over a month ago from Deebo Samuel. And if the 49ers believe that a lot of Deebo Samuel's discontent is agent-driven, if they believe they can get back to Deebo the person by connecting with him, by calling his bluff, if it was a bluff yesterday, well, then if they're confident about that, then obviously you can see why they didn't trade Deebo Samuel, because they think the situation's reparable and they think they can get that value out of their team MVP, at least their offensive MVP last season. Well, they don't have to franchise tag Deebo Samuel. I don't think they even can this year. Deebo Samuel's still under his rookie contract, remember. Deebo Samuel's still under his rookie deal for 2022. Franchise tag wouldn't come until 2023. So this is why the 49ers hold so much leverage in this situation, because Deebo's literally still under his rookie deal. I think they want to compensate him. I think they want to reach a long-term deal. But these negotiations take time. Warner, Kittle, both in the same boat. Rookie deal year 4. Got the extension done before year 4. But those extensions didn't get done until July. It's still April right now. It's April 29th. You think that Alex Mack has tied his future to Deebo Samuel? That's interesting. I'm not going to argue with you. Mack did just get married in Ireland. Maybe he wants to be a family man from Mullet. Mullet's got a nice picture there. Any Jimmy updates? Will he get redemption? I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo needs to redeem himself for anything. I don't have any updates besides the fact that Carolina did not pick a QB with number 6, so he could be potentially headed there down the road. Who knows? I mean, right now, the Jimmy Garoppolo situation, I think, is mainly contingent on the shoulder health. He's recovering from shoulder surgery, but won't throw until near the end of next month. And by next month, I mean June. We're almost in May. So he's about 2 months from throwing. We can put it that way. And that's all that I know about Jimmy Garoppolo. I think the Jimmy Garoppolo situation as a whole is a whole lot less complicated than people made it out to be for several years. Good quarterback. 49ers were much better with him than without him. Athletically limited compared to some of these dual threat guys that are taking the league by storm right now. And Kyle Shanahan wanted a higher ceiling at a more affordable price point, and he saw an opportunity to get it with Trey Lance in 2021. That doesn't mean that Jimmy Garoppolo didn't do a hell of a lot for the 49ers. I mean, again, 2 NFC championship game appearances and a Super Bowl appearance in 3 years, coming from complete scorched earth before Shanahan and Garoppolo and all those guys showed up. So you can have appreciation for multiple things at once. One, for what Jimmy Garoppolo has done for this franchise, and 2, for what Trey Lance might be able to do moving forward. And now with the whole Garoppolo situation, he's already essentially said his goodbyes. I think the 49ers obviously have a plan A there, and maybe they've had to move off of plan A to plan B. But plan B in this situation, or even plan C, is still to trade Jimmy Garoppolo, get some assets in return, move forward with that. Right now, they're carrying him on the roster at no real cost, right? Because he's not guaranteed any money until week 1 if he does make the 53-man roster. So those are the Jimmy Garoppolo updates. I don't know if they're updates. I don't know if they qualify as such, but thought that I would get that through on this show. All right, any more questions? I know you guys are arguing over there in the comment section. Maybe we'll get to 500 viewers here. Hit that subscribe button right now. It's 8:30. I'm going to go get some breakfast here in a little bit. I'm going to catch up on Twitter in a little bit. But if you hit that subscribe button, I'd really appreciate it. Maybe I'll try to stick around until we get to 500, then I'll call it. So sub now, ask your questions. I've been on for 44 minutes, so 45 might be a good length because you guys aren't asking questions. Travis Cooper is. What's your thoughts on our major concern at what top spot? I actually don't understand this question. So if you could rephrase, I would really appreciate it. Are you asking about the O-line? Is there a typo here? I don't know. Any concerns with Watson transitioning to the NFL? There's concerns with everybody transitioning to the NFL. The NFL is a grown man's league. So you make your projection as well as possible. Christian Watson needs to add muscle. Can an NFL strength program do that? Probably. That's his weakness. But again, I'm not singling him out. Every player needs to make an adjustment when they enter the National Football League. That's why you see even number 1 overall picks flame out. Brian, what do you think is the main need that the 49ers need to take care of in the draft? I'll answer visually. Hammer the O-line. I think the 49ers have to get better up front. All right. Thanks, everybody. Subscribe to the channel. It's been a fun morning show. We'll have more coming to you. Subscribe to The Athletic as well. I'm going to put this in the chat section one more time. The article that's up on the screen right here, best 49ers offensive linemen, best players still available for the 49ers. See, it's a little Freudian slip on my part, offensive linemen. I'm so obsessed with the 49ers needing to improve the offensive line. I'm talking about it even when I shouldn't be. But check out the chat section. That's the article. Best remaining players. There's 39 of them. So you can see all 39 of them on that article. You can sign up to The Athletic right now. I guarantee you that's where the best 49ers coverage is going to be. So check it out. It's in the chat section. That's the article right next to me. Once again, everybody have a good breakfast. I really appreciate everybody joining the show this morning. Subscribe to The Athletic, subscribe to the show, and get ready for day 2 of the 49ers draft. After day 1, which was wild, where they didn't even do anything, it's day 2 now where it's a chance for the 49ers to actually start picking. So we'll have all the analysis here for you today. Everybody have a good one. Subscribe and take care.